You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show. You're listening to the Barbell Logic podcast. I'm your host, Matt Reynolds. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm excited to be here this morning. I've got a special guest, my coach, Anthony Diehl. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited because this is the first time we've ever featured a coach as kind of a case study who is using TurnKey Coach, who's transitioned over to TurnKey Coach, who does not work for Block. So you've built a pretty big following over the years as a coach, both in person and online. I started working with you. I said, I'll work with you so long as you test out our software. And then here we are a few months later, you're like, I got to get all my clients over to this software. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. First off, tell the people a little bit about like who you are. You've got a great competitive background. So people know that I was a decent power lifter and I won my pro card in strongman. Your exploits in the competitive world far outreach mine. So give me a little bit of your background and specifically in competitive lifting.
Sure. So I'm a husband, father of 3. We celebrate our 15-year anniversary next week, which is awesome.
Congrats. I had 24 last week.
That's amazing. Well, congrats to you as well. So I got into strongman when I was 27 years old. So I had been lifting for a lot of years. I was overweight in college, lost a lot of weight, got into lifting. And one day I'm at the gym and a buddy of mine says, hey, do you want to do farmer's carries out back? And I vaguely remembered what farmer's carries were because my dad and I used to watch old school strongman on ESPN. And I go out there and I assumed, because the friend who asked me was like 140 pounds soaking wet, that I was going to crush his soul. Because I was pretty strong at this point in the big 3.
Yeah. By the way, you're 27 then. How old are you now?
Yeah, I'm 37.
Okay, so 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. And so I remember he picks up 200 pounds in each hand and just runs.
Yeah.
And so I thought, without having any context, well, okay, I'll be able to do this if he did.
How
that.
hard can this be?
Oh, I was like a drunk baby deer. It was awful. It was awful. And I'm so competitive that I just immediately said, I have to get better at that thing. And he said, well,
sure.
There's a group of us that meet at this guy's garage on Saturdays at 11, and we do log presses and stone loads. I'm like, okay, I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so I was there that Saturday. And probably about 3 months later, this guy who owned the house and the strongman garage gym just comes to like 6 of us and says, hey, by the way, next weekend there's a contest and I signed you all up.
I love it.
So I go there and I was hooked. I was hooked immediately. And over the course of about 8 years, I competed 35 times.
Wow.
And culminating in earning my pro card in 2019 and then winning America's Strongest Man in 2020. But I always remind people, hey, when I competed like 35 times. I lost way more than I won.
Oh, sure.
But I was there and it was about showing up on the right day and just staying consistent.
Yeah, for sure. I've got a lot of the same stories. I was, and I've said this before, I went from like the best amateur in the country to the worst pro in the world overnight. It was bizarre. I mean, the difference between the amateurs and the pros for me was just on another level.
Sure.
So then did you start with a bodybuilding background and move into strongman, or what was that progression like?
Good question. So no, I actually started with strength sports and moved into bodybuilding over the last couple of years. And I also compete in jiu-jitsu as well. So now I'll say this, I had a very unique situation. I trained for strongman in a global gym that had some very renowned bodybuilders in it. And so everything that I learned about nutrition particularly came from the bodybuilding world, which is great because we meatheads in the strength world literally don't care.
Yep.
Like if you tell a powerlifter, hey, if you just drink this raw sewage, it's going to put 50 pounds in your total. We're like, sweet.
Yep.
Where do we do that?
Yep.
So I had like a bodybuilding educational background and kind of applied that to strongman. Now, how I got into coaching. So realistically, I just started it kind of as a side gig because I had always loved working with people. So for a career at the time, I was in operations management at Starbucks and I was a senior customer service operations manager at Amazon. And so in both of those roles, I've always been a teacher, a mentor, a leader of leaders, coach of coaches kind of thing. And I love it. I love working with people. I love helping people develop career plans and personal development plans. And so I just decided to apply that to something I'm also interested in, namely fitness and nutrition.
Yep.
And I got into that, I would say, probably within the first year of doing strongman. I'm one of these guys, I can't dabble. I don't dabble. I have to be very careful with my hobbies because I'm all in or I'm not in.
You, as my coach, know that I am exactly the same way.
Yes.
I'm either all out or all in. The difference between me and all your other clients is I'm all in when I'm on vacation and I struggle when I'm at home. And all your other clients do great at home and then they just like let everything just goes to crap on vacation.
This is true. I've observed this about you. It's so weird, but hey, you're your own. Everybody's unique.
That's right. So you started coaching, and I assume you were coaching in person, like in the Globo gym, doing personal training. That was how it started?
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of hybrid, both and, but I do believe that in order to be a good coach, you do need to have some experience doing in person,
of course,
watching movement patterns. So I did do a lot of in person. I pivoted entirely online during COVID, which most people did.
Okay, so 4 years ago or so, you went, yeah, because every gym closed and you're like, what are we going to do?
Right. Now, thankfully, I still had, at the time, I was probably 50-50 online clients versus, but I always had my services broken up into, hey, I can do just your nutrition, I can do just your strength training, or I can do both.
Yep.
So I had some folks where I did their nutrition, which all of that was online. So I already had the online interface going.
Right.
So it wasn't really that hard of a pivot to say, hey, now we're doing everything online.
Yeah, well, especially because you weren't probably legally allowed to meet with them in person. So, I mean, that was one of the things that we struggle with. And so,
correct.
You know, we got real creative with 50-pound dog food bags and let's go to Lowe's and get 5-gallon buckets and fill them up with concrete and 4x4s and make a real janky squat rack. And so we would have guys like squatting in their living room on 4x4s in a 5-pound bucket full of concrete because they live in a city, because they live in New York City or Seattle or Montreal or whatever. It's like, where else are you going to train? Like those cities are completely shut down. So you transition in 2020-ish to fully online. And again, I don't want to throw anybody else under the bus. One of the things I try to be careful with, and I very much respect most of my competitors. I think they do a great job. And a lot of people know who we used to use for software. We were their biggest client for 5 years. I don't have anything bad to say about them. But I want to push a little bit on, as you transitioned into online over the last 3 or 4 years, what were the kind of pain points for you that maybe the online sector didn't meet the way the in-person one did? Or what was churn like? Like, how often were you losing clients? Like, where were some of those hurdles for you that you were like, I got to figure this out and figure out a better way to do this thing?
Well, one of the things was, I'm a people person. So I'm the kind of guy, I can go into a room and be friends with anybody from any demographic. And so losing the in-person body language, shake your hand, look at the person in the eyes, smile, be able to talk with them. So trying to figure out how to make online that same degree of interpersonal skills.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. And a coach needs to know their craft. Of course, they need to know how to program. They need to understand nutrition, all of these things. But I think one of the main reasons I've been successful is twofold. On the one front is people skills, because I work well with people and I just love working with them.
Sure.
But two, having systems and processes in place. And I got that from my background in the corporate world.
Yep.
So just making sure, like when I first started online, everything is spreadsheets and email.
Same thing. That's what I did.
Yeah. And so some of
like
these
Google Sheets, email, and even for me, when in the beginning, when I was like, I wanted to provide a level of service that was better than what the standard of online coaching was, which I think one of the things we've tried to do at Barbell Logic and TurnKey Coaches, we're trying to raise the professionalism of online coaching. Online coaching is still considered by the majority of like, sell me a program, sell me a template. And, one step down the road from that is give me personalized programming, which I think is a great step in the right direction. The problem is, and actually let's rabbit trail for a second, because you made a great reel on Instagram this week on AI, is that if all you do is program, even if it's personalized, you're dead. Like you might not be dead today, but you're dead soon. If you have clients that are smart enough, if you have clients at Amazon, those clients already know how to get better programming or as good a programming as what you can write or what I can write or what Louis Simmons can write or anybody. And so I knew that I wanted to provide a level of service that was higher than anybody else. So I knew I had to have the technique coaching and I had to have the relationship. But in those early years, it was still janky and put together. It was Google Sheets and they were personalized. I didn't use templates. They're personalized for the clients. They would video themselves doing the lifts. Of course, phones were just getting to the point where you could actually see things like you needed to. They would upload them to YouTube. They would make them private. They would send me the link on email. And then I spent all day typing feedback on my Gmail account. I mean, I would get 110 emails a day from clients, and I'm just constantly like, okay, I'm gonna take an hour break. I'm gonna take a 2-hour break. I'd come back and I have 45 emails that I had to respond to. And so that was my experience. Was yours similar? What was that like?
Yes, very similar. And I began to realize very quickly this wasn't sustainable or scalable.
Yeah.
Especially if I was going to provide the degree of service that I wanted to. And I value further education. I am always reading and researching. Anybody that follows me knows I'm putting out educational content all the time, but that's not me speaking from a place of subject matter expertise necessarily. Actually, if you want to know what I'm reading, look at what I'm tweeting. It's probably coming directly from what I'm diving into.
Right.
And doing what you just said was just time crushing. I couldn't keep up with it. And so I realized very quickly I had to have a system and a process, streamline all communication into one spot, because if people are texting, Facebook, Instagramming, everything else, you're going to drop the ball.
Can't keep up with it. Yep.
And customer service.
By the way, I still get that. And I have almost a copy and paste. Somebody sends me a DM on Twitter or on Instagram or something. And I say, hey, if you'll email this to me, I promise you it won't fall through the cracks.
That's right.
Text, same thing. I'll have client text me, like, the clients that I've trained for a while, and they don't exploit they don't blow up my phone all day, but still occasionally they'll text me a question about training and I'm in the middle of a Zoom meeting or something. And I'll just say, like, email this. And then they know that once it goes to the email, it gets starred, it gets held, and it will get responded to within 24 hours.
If any of my clients are listening to this, they have to be smiling because this happens all the time. So with my bodybuilding coaches, when we get to the second half of prep, I have them check in twice a week to my phone directly so that I can make like in the moment audibles.
Yeah.
Now, my personal standard of customer service that I set for my clients is I will always reply within 24 hours, Monday through Friday.
Yep, that's what we do.
So they know that if I reply Saturday, Sunday, that's just because I was bored and online.
Right.
But the expectation is 24 hours, Monday through Friday.
Yep.
So some of those clients who are used to kind of, like you just said, they don't exploit it, but they might send a message or even on Instagram, hey, coach, what about whatever? I say, hey, drop this to me in the app, please.
Yes, right. Exactly right. So, yeah, by the way, Apple, if you're listening and I'm sure you're not, why can't we star texts to say, like, this is an important text I need to go back and, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you get texts and they just get, once you've read them, you've read them. There's no way to, like Gmail does, or like, you can do that and start in other apps, but I don't think you can do that on a text, right?
You can't star it, but the most recent release, you can now mark a text message as unread.
Yes, I know I can do that, but then I'm an OCD guy.
Correct.
I used to be that guy 15 years ago that had 30,000 unread emails. And then I actually paid for a subscription service that goes through and cleans up your email. I mean, even like my wife's or our family email, which is mostly my wife's, if she has an unread email for an hour and a half and I'm sitting there looking at it and it says 1 or 2, I'll go ahead and clear it out. And then I'll text her and say, there was an email you need to look at, because I can't stand it being there. It's the same thing on the text. I don't have any. Now, I get it that those of you who are listening, you're probably one or the other. You're either the person who has no unread emails, no unread text, or you've got a million of both. But I couldn't deal with that. So for me, what I like about email is I can read the email. It's shown that it's read, but I can star it and be like, this one is important.
I'm with you.
Or on, we use Basecamp for project management. I can do the same thing. I can put a little ribbon on it that says, come back to this. Don't forget this thing. This one's an important one. I don't have time to respond to it right now. So anyway, so your online coaching, you've got all these like inefficiency issues over the last several years. What does 6 months ago look like? Or what does even, say, 8 weeks ago look like? You're using a third-party software that's not ours yet. Like you've come on, about 6 weeks ago, something like that, 4 to 6 weeks ago.
Yes.
So you're pretty new. And again, without throwing anybody under the bus, but like I assume over time you developed systems and SOPs that sort of tightened up a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
But there were still some probably roadblocks or challenges there in the current system that you were using even just a couple months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So the current system, the system I was using a few months ago, I did have things pretty streamlined, right? So it was pretty manageable. One of the downfalls of all other softwares that I recently discovered, in fact, when I moved over to TKC, I was not the biggest fan of how we did check-ins. I am now a huge fan of how we do check-ins.
So explain that. Why is that?
Okay, so the reason is in TKC, there's two calendars. There's your workout calendar, then your nutrition calendar. And on your nutrition calendar, you can set the check-in as a task to be completed that will pop up for the client.
Right.
The reason this is beautiful is every other software might allow you to upload a PDF. So my old system was, hey, here's a PDF of a list of things I want to check in on a weekly basis: sleep, hunger, energy, digestion, stress. You fill this out, copy and paste it, put it in the messages portion. I see it, reply accordingly. We're good to go. The issue is now I am just banking on the fact that the client's going to remember to do that.
Right.
Which oftentimes they don't, so that I'm chasing down, hey, where's my check-in?
Yep.
Kind of deal. Where now it pops up as an auto reminder. But then here's what's the most important piece to me. Everybody's on a different journey, different timeline. I can go in and customize those questions on the check-in for different people.
Right.
So if a person over here, I'm not having her check her weight right now because she has an issue with the scale, I just don't ask that question. Or if the metrics that we're tracking for somebody over here are different than this guy's metrics, I can just customize everything. It prompts it as a task to be completed. And then even more specifically, I can reply individually to each thing versus having to parse through this entire paragraph.
Right.
So it just streamlines it a ton.
Yep.
That's been a huge feature that's been more efficient and saved me a ton of time.
Yeah, I remember you texted me, I think, a few weeks ago, and you said, bro, I've been on this for 2 weeks and it's already saving me 2 hours a day.
Easily.
In coaching. And so, yeah, I was going to ask, like, what's that look like now? Like, and I think I texted back to you, I said, you don't even understand. Just wait until you're 4 months in and you're really fast at the thing. You've learned all the keyboard shortcuts. You learn exactly how to reply and respond. And some of that is different, right? Like when you're breaking down technique, you're giving, feedback on nutrition. The way you would do that in online is different than the way you do that in person. That real-time interaction is different because it's real time. And so online, you've got to give these really unique cues that are memorable that the client will remember the next time they do that workout, which might be 2 days from now, or it might be a week from now or whatever. But they have to remember, like, all right, Coach Anthony told me to do this on my squat. Well, that was a week ago or 4 days ago. It wasn't that he told me to do this on set 2. So now I have to think about it on set 3, which is like, 3 minutes later. That's a big difference.
That's right.
I think learning that skill of cueing and coaching online is certainly a different skill that you have to have. And it also touches on the interpersonal relationship piece, that online coaching by its very nature is impersonal. And so it requires not just an expertise of skill as a coach, but I think even an additional level of expertise on the people side, on the people person, the social skill side.
Yes.
Because it's not that hard to talk about, like, how is the week? When you're standing there in the gym and it's an hour-long session and you're only coaching for 15 minutes because 45 minutes is rest periods. You ask them, like, how was the weekend? What did you do? Like, how's the wife? How's the dog? Whatever. And online, you've got to still try to make that connection and still build that trust and relationship, but it's just done differently because it's asynchronous. Now, the advantage, where do you live?
I'm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay, that's what I thought. When you're in person, your client pool in person is Lancaster, Pennsylvania, or like people that live within 15 minutes of your gym. As soon as you do this well online, your client pool is the whole world.
That's right.
They can afford it and is looking for a coach like you. But that's still exponentially greater than where you live, which is all really cool. So yeah, lots of advantages there for sure. So now take me through, what does a day of coaching look like for you today compared to even maybe what it looked like even like 8 weeks ago? So now you're on TurnKey Coach, you got all your clients on. First off, let me start here. How was the onboarding process? Because I know one of the things for coaches is there's always the change management problem, right? You came out of the Amazon, Starbucks, like people that are in corporate America understand that term change management. Like any change, like even we talked about that. Every time a new iOS 17, iOS 18's getting ready to comes out, everybody freaks out. They hate it just because it's different. Even if it's better, it's different. What was the onboarding process like? How smooth was that transition? And even like where are places that we could be better? I mean, that's one of the things we're trying to do. So what was that process like for you?
Well, big shout out to you and Andrew for making it absolutely seamless. Honestly, it went really smooth. Now, part of that, again, I'm a hey, we're doing this. Let's go all in. Andrew was over here. He was very accommodating. He's like, hey, if we want, we can do this in small batches. We can do this over a period of a week. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do this over a period of 2 days and just get it done.
Perfect.
And that's me. That's my personality. But
yeah, I remember he emailed me and he was like, Anthony's an animal. He's like already, he's got everybody on and he's programming like crazy already. And I'm like, yeah.
I blocked out a day or two out of my calendar, went and sat at a local coffee shop and just hammered. I mean, it was like, it was like 40 ounces of cold brew and get it done. So the transition was really easy. It easily has cut out at least 2 hours, potentially more, out of my daily routine, and simultaneously has allowed it to be a more personalized experience for my clients. And I've been asking my clients for feedback. Hey, what do you think of this new app? And like you said, any change, even positive change, can be bumpy at first. But here's a brief snapshot of what most of the feedback has been. Well, it was really weird at first knowing where to put my check-ins, but then once I discovered this, I actually like it a lot easier. It's a lot faster. The new app is streamlined. I like how it tracks my PRs and my metrics.
Yeah, automatically.
All of those things, right? There's that bumpy period of this is different, but I think all of my clients at this point love it a lot more. A day in my life is I typically get up every morning around 4 o'clock. I'm going to read for a little bit, sip a cup of coffee, open my laptop, and in about an hour, I'm just going to go to that connect page, which that's another thing I love, is I love how workout updates and videos are in kind of one section. It prompts you when a programming is due or a check-in is due, and then messages are an entirely other side of this equation. And so I can blast through that connect page. I mean, I have 90 clients and I can blast through that entire thing, in an hour and a half. If I do it, I would say I spend an hour in the morning, probably about 45 minutes midday, and an hour in the afternoon.
So for those of you guys that are listening, I don't want to miss this. Guy's got 90 clients and it's saved 2 to 3 hours a day of work.
Sure, absolutely.
You do the math, look him up. Like again, he's charging in the same wheelhouse that Barbell Logic is. Do the math. So you're working, less than 3 hours a day and you're making well into the 6 figures.
Yeah.
And that's not, I think one of the things that's tough to kind of help people understand, like, this is not Mary Kay. This is not a multi-level marketing scheme. This is not like this guy's at the top. You switched over to this like 6 weeks ago.
That's right.
And so you're working 3 hours. So what that does is now you've got 2 hours opened up where you can either focus on things that are more important to you, like spend 2 more hours with your wife and kids, spiritual disciplines, your own training, your own fitness, or, and I've seen you do, you've been booked for years. You're like, I can take more clients now.
That's right.
Because now I can make even more money. So because I've allocated 4 or 5 hours a day to this, and now what was taking me 5 hours is now only taking me 3. So I can open up more spots. And you're like, I want to go over 100. And we're like, would love to see it. That'd be super cool. We want to see you do that. See what your efficiency looks like.
Yeah. And before I had been, the most clients I ever took at one time was 120.
Yep, I was about the same.
That was about 2 years ago. And I was running ragged. It was miserable.
It almost killed me.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. And so I capped it and I thought there's no way I'm ever going to go over that number again, not to provide the level of service that I want to. And so, with TurnKey Coach enables, you still have to have a basic understanding of systems and processes. So like I have all of my clients divided out. They all know check-ins are between Monday and Thursday. So I have my clients broken up. So I get the same number of check-ins each day.
Yep.
And Fridays are wide open for new client onboarding. And I do mentor some up-and-coming coaches. And I love to spend time researching, doing podcasts like this. I do a lot of consults with people where maybe they can't afford month-to-month coaching, but I'll have them go get their blood work. And then I'll sit down for an hour, go over things and kind of get them on the...
Pay for an hour time.
Exactly. So I do a lot of that stuff.
Yep.
And it's freed me up to be able to do more of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome, man. Also, to be clear, like you're a team of one.
That's right.
Right now. I think the next step for you, I would be really interested to revisit and have you back on the podcast in like 6 to 8 months and go like, hey man, what's it like now having 3 coaches working underneath you?
That's right.
Because that's kind of the next, and TurnKey Coach, because we developed it for Barbell Logic, where we brought on 50, 60, 70 coaches at one time. And by the way, the reason Andrew said, we can do this a little bit at a time is because we had 1,000 clients at the time. They were transitioning over. So we're like, okay, we're going to take all the coaches that have last names that start A through C. We're going to transfer them over on the first day of the month. And then, D through F on day 2. And then because we didn't know if we were going to get this like massive, complaints or I can't do it or, and of course the software is so much better now than it was when we transitioned over to it 3-4 years ago, whatever it was. But one of the things I love about it is there are all sorts of features built in for you that you're not using yet because you're still just a team of one. Now, you can be a team of one. You can have 120 clients again. And again, you can make 250 grand a year on part-time work. But at some point, my guess is to be like, it'd be really nice to have an assistant coach underneath me to do some of these like simple check-ins. And what's cool about TurnKey Coach is that it has a coverage feature. So like if I have a day, as you know, like I've traveled like crazy the last 10 weeks. If I have a day that I'm in the airport, on the airplanes, my internet's going to suck, I can literally just take all of my clients and transfer them to one of the coaches on the team. And I pay them for their check-ins. There's actually a difference. Like you can still make money off. So the typical check-in, maybe you're getting paid 12, 13, 14, 15 bucks per check-in, something like that. Depends on obviously what you charge. At Barbell Logic, we pay like $8 a check-in, something like that. And so the younger coaches that are all still great coaches, they want to have that extra money. They want to get their eyes on some new clients. And I'm on an airplane and literally it's a one-touch button coverage. Dan will coach you for the next 24 hours. And then when I get over to the hotel and I get set up, I'll take them back. It's super easy. And so you talk about that scalability. There's still a place, even in this online coaching world, where a really amazing coach, the best of the best could probably do between 150 and 200 clients, but it would get it to be a drag.
Yes.
You're going to get up to 100, 110, 120 again. It'll be fine. But to go from 120 to 150 would be a drag. And it would be much easier to bring on an assistant coach and then you're like, look, I've got the name and I've got the following and I can send clients to you and I'm going to take a cut of that, which is basically what Block does. And so it'll be really interesting in 6 to 8 months to talk through that and go like, now what's it look like? And you're like, I got 300 clients and I have 3 coaches that work underneath me. And, so we don't have to talk about specific dollars, but you can just do the math,
Absolutely.
And they're making 6 figures. They're making, 85, 90, $100,000 a year working 90 minutes a day. And you get a cut. That's what they pocket. You get a cut of the rest. Like that's why it's built.
Sure.
It's for the infinite scalability. So
I love it.
Man, anything else just about the efficiency, places that you'd like to see, like you're kind of playing around with or interested in, things you'd like to see in the app coming up in the future? Obviously, we've got a long list of features on the roadmap. The thing about Andrew, he's just so good with cutting waste. And so we only cut waste in places that you don't lose service.
That's right.
And so we never want to take service from clients. We want to keep giving them more service on less time for the coach. So I don't know. What are you interested in right now?
Well, to piggyback off of something you said a few minutes ago, I am still in the baby stage and there's features I know I'm not leveraging to its full capacity yet. So I'm still kind of learning it myself. One of the features I do love is, again, that video in video.
Oh, yeah.
Replying to people. Oh, that's huge. Because how long does it take when you watch somebody squatting incorrectly and you have to type out this essay, but make sure that they understand it and it makes sense in their head? Versus it's so much easier if they see my face, they hear tone, they see body language. Hey, what I want you to do there is I want you to take a step out, maybe about an inch on either side, point your toes out just slightly more. And when you're squatting down, I want you to think kneecaps over pinky toes here and push your hip. Like I can give all these cues and they're much more readily.
And not type them out.
But it's also better understood by the client.
That's right. That's a perfect example of what we just talked about. So here's the client is paying for, we've identified, right? The client is paying for personalized programming, which you give, technique feedback, which TurnKey Coach does so great because of the integrated screen recorder, but also the support, the relationship, the building of trust. And it's really hard to do that with type feedback. But when they see your face and they hear your voice, you get to give all 3 of those things in a 3-minute breakdown. So in a 3-minute breakdown, you break down their technique, you talk about where their programming is going to go. And oh, by the way, how was the graduation party on Friday night? And you get to, or like for you guys that are some of my Reformed brethren, and like on Sunday mornings, I'm like, happy Lord's Day, like, have a great Sabbath, like Hope Church is great. You say those things. And like, those are things that you get to say to your clients. And so the other thing I think that creates then is it creates a lot more joy for the coach. It's not just that the client builds relationship and trust with the coach. It's that the coach enjoys their clients. We've all had terrible clients. I don't have any terrible clients on TurnKey Coach. If I have a terrible client, I fire them or I give them to a young coach. Like that's the
character building.
Now, if I've given you away, sometimes, the business gets crazy and I'm just busy as a CEO and I like you just fine. But in general, like you get to really be more choosy as a coach. And so to this day, I've got about 40, 42 clients that I maintain, and all my executive team kind of does the same thing. Andrew's got like, he's over 50, 51, 52. And we do that to keep our eyes sharp. And because we own the software, we need to see the software from both the coaching side and the client side. So, man, that's great. I love it. You've made the transition. And again, back to the AI, like, you said, bring on AI. I love it. Like, put the bad coaches out of business. Couldn't agree more. If you're making money off selling complicated templates, you're dead. Absolutely. If you haven't invested in the relationship and the trust with the client, then you are going to be replaced. That's right. And that's the thing that AI can never replace. Let's be honest. AI may be able to replace the technique coaching at some point. It probably will be. It'll probably be able to technique coach as well as the rest of us. I don't think that's a year or two away. I think it's probably 5 years away or more. But what it cannot do is replace the human element. That's right. And that's what people are paying for, to be perfectly honest. I've said this before. I'm actually talking with my pastor about it right now. If I could do something else to add to my skill and repertoire, it wouldn't actually be anything in the nutrition or physical training realm. I would actually go back and get potentially my master's degree in counseling, because a lot of what I do, I become more of a life coach, because we're talking about behaviors. Sure. And when I'm asking my check-ins, people are opening up about life stress, about marital stress, financial stress, wayward children, all of these things. And I end up being more of a life coach, and AI can't do that. No, it can. Right. That's exactly right. And then you've got to adjust as when the overlap there with the expert strength and nutrition coaching is that your body handles stress. Like, you get to control what's going on in that weight room an hour a day, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever. And you can tell them what to eat. And as long as they follow the thing, you can control that too. But you can't control if their kid is up all night long throwing up. You can't control if they got the pink slip at work. You can't control if their dad just had a heart attack. And as soon as they have those things, if you can't make changes to their programming, to the way you coach them, like, I've got clients that constantly need encouragement. I have clients that kind of need their butt chewed every once in a while. Like, come on, like, let's go. Right. And then something happens to that type of client and the cueing changes. It's not chewing butt anymore. It's like, hey man, how's your dad? That's right. It's that. And so that's the thing that AI can't do. And so, man, this is a plea from both of us, I'm sure, to all you coaches out there. There are a bunch of really good technical coaches out there. A lot of those coaches haven't built the social relational skills to build the relationship and trust with their clients over time. And so I hope what TurnKey Coach does, and what our goal is for TurnKey Coach, is to make it a software that just fades into the background so that it lets you, as the coach, spend 99% of your time interacting with your clients, and let your clients spend 99% of their time interacting with their coach. And so we've all used software and other stuff before that's like just frustrating. This is one of the reasons that Apple is so popular, is that you get a thing from Apple, it always works, it's easy to understand, it's intuitive. We built the software for experience, to make it work, not to make it look pretty first. Most app developers make it look pretty first, put it in the app store, sell it. It doesn't work very well. We were never going to sell it. It was just going to be ours. So we made it work really well. So that like Connect page and all that kind of stuff that you're talking about, like that's worked great for 4 years. Now we're at a point where it works really well. And now we're like, hey, let's make it pretty. Like, let's hire some designers and make it look like really tight. That's awesome. I'm excited for the journey, dude. You've done great. You're a great coach. It's been fun working with you. I'm really excited to see what it looks like for your career over the next 6 months. And I'd like to see what you can push that number up to. And then I'm waiting for the call to go like, hey, I need you to help me hire 3 more coaches. Yes, yes. I love it. Let's go. I would love it. So like, you can go on vacation and not ever have to work. That's right. That's the deal. So Anthony Diehl, for people who are interested in getting coaching from you, and by the way, you really focus on like body recomp, bodybuilding, and not just competitive bodybuilding, but you've got a lot of like, your clientele is similar to ours, but they're people who are really looking for body recomposition a lot of times. Like, they need to lose fat, they need to look better, all of those things. Where do they go to find you? Where's the best place to find you? Yeah, so you can go to Instagram at Meathead Professor. There's a story behind that handle. I'm Coach Anthony Diehl on Twitter, and then I'm just Anthony Diehl on Facebook. Or if you want to go to my website, New Vision Performance, you can find me there as well. Awesome. Dude, thanks for doing the show. I really appreciate you. And thanks for being a case study. Our first case study on the podcast as a non-block TKC coach. And I love it that you've only been on it for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely love it.
If you've been doing this for 2 years, it's kind of like, well, he's got it all figured out. I like the fact that you're like, I'm way more efficient 4 to 6 weeks in, and I can't wait to see where I'm at in 6 months.
Yes.
Love it, dude. Awesome, brother. I hope you have a great week. Hey, thanks for listening to the Barbell Logic podcast. Everybody, this has been another episode of the Coaching Success Series. If you got value from it, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. And go visit Anthony. Like, go check him out on social media, on Instagram. He posts a ton of great high-value content. I know you've got a similar sort of strategy that we do. Like, you just put out content for free all the time. You make money off the service. If you put out enough great high-quality content, then some of those people funnel down and become paying clients. And so check him out. By the way, he is jacked beyond belief. Like, so for those of you guys who are listening to the audio and not watching the video, he is like insanely jacked and lean, looks the part, tan, like just, women are my thing, bro. But if they weren't,
oh man,
I'll be flirting right now.
I'll thank my mama for my skin complexion.
That's right. So awesome, dude. Thank you so much for doing the show. Appreciate you. If this conversation has resonated with you and you're ready for a glimpse into your future, if you optimize your workflow and 5x your hourly earnings, visit turnkey.coach for incredible, valuable resources, including an earnings calculator, a Turnkey Coach in action video, and a completely free course, no strings attached, called Coaching Rediscovered. Get access to it all now at turnkey.coach.